Hi friends, it's your pal Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm going to continue my recap of the Drogar campaign. So the Drogar campaign is a physical tabletop game being run with D&D 5e. 5e, what's that mean? We're using the 2024 core rulebooks, which is really just 5e with an improved set of core rulebooks. And I can tell you right now, because I'm on the front lines of it, it really works. It really does work perfectly well with Tasha's. It works well with Curse of Strahd. It truly is backwards compatible, and it is fantastic. The books are amazing, and it's been and I will say this is some peak Dungeons and Dragons. I'm at the table. I'm at the physical table. I'm using the physical books. I'm using my Lego miniatures, and I'm before each session, I'm writing story, right? And I'm crafting a story that's ready. And then I'm smashing that story up against the hardcore player, who is this very skilled veteran Dungeons and Dragons player. And both of us are being interrupted by the math rocks. And this is as good as it gets. It is really peak Dungeons and Dragons. I'm really loving it. And I'm incredibly fortunate to be at the table playing Dungeons and Dragons with physical, with everything that I want. I actually run multiple campaigns in different ways, online, all kinds of different paths to do Dungeons and Dragons. But you don't always get everything you want. And I think one thing that's really great about this campaign is, in many ways, there's no compromise. The hardcore player is very hardcore about his character and about having a lot of fidelity to the character and to the narrative, but not a stickler on what miniatures are used, what dice are used, what rule sets are used. It's pretty incredible, and I really feel incredibly fortunate. All right, let me not delay any farther. Let's get into the recap. So, Sleepy Stonyhorn, he is a dwarven ranger. He is a pathfinder for Forge Lord Shram from Mount Hotenow, and he cuts a path from Mount Hotenow all the way down to Phandalin. Now, this is interesting because in one part of the session today, I said, okay, listen, I want to learn about Sleepy Stonyhorn. Okay, dwarven years are complicated. I want you to tell me how old Sleepy Stonyhorn is if he was a human. So the hardcore player says 25, right? And I'm like, great, okay. I already did the math. Dwarves live to be 350 years old. We're going to times that by 3. So he is 75 years old. How many times has he cut this path between Phandalin and Mount Hotenow? And I thought he would say, 10 or 30 or 40 times. He's like, this is only the second time. This is the first time he's ever done it by himself, right? Which, we think we understand what the players know, right? But we really don't. Often, and I think this is one of the things that's most beautiful about Dungeons & Dragons is it is a story being told in real time, but people are walking away from these sessions with incredibly different ideas in their head, right? So every non-player character that I produce, he's got a different image of them in his mind, right? Sleepy Stonyhorn, I have a different image in my mind of Sleepy Stonyhorn than he does in his mind. That's deep. That is incredibly deep. That is incredibly important. That is incredibly powerful, right? And it does work this way with novels, right? But it doesn't work this way with shows and with movies. It's really different. And so Gary Gygax built this narrative structure that is incredibly powerful. That is just incredibly powerful and is really special and really unique. And there really is nothing like it. There's nothing like it in the whole world. And I'm very thankful. I'm just super thankful for having the opportunity to jump into this. So, okay, so he is 70. So Sleepy Stonyhorn is 75 years old. He and then the first time he took this path, he was taken by a gnome pathfinder who was from Neverwinter, and that gnome pathfinder showed him the Wicker Path. And I was like, okay, you know the Wicker Path, right? Now I actually put the Wicker Path in this session for him to use as a resource for a specific trap that I had laid, right? And because the hardcore player he creates adventures like falling off a log. He drives the story in directions I would never expect. And I absolutely love this. I've never really had a player who's as adept at taking the story in any direction. I've said this to many players, right? And a lot of players just don't really believe that they have the freedom to go anywhere they want in the world and do anything they want in the world. But the hardcore player is truly this way. He accepts adventure. He seeks adventure. He tacks into adventure like a sailor throwing the rope on the jib, and the sail just flowing in a different direction. And it's beautiful when it happens. And I think, and I love it. I love it. I'm a very skilled dungeon master. Like I don't think I do anything in life better than I am I believe God put me on this planet to do a lot of things. I'm good at many of them. I'm great at dungeon master. I think I'm better at this than I've ever been at anything, right? And so when the story goes off in a completely new direction, that's what excites me. Like in a direction where I have nothing written, right? And I need to continue to drive the story forward with no plans, in effect, And one, I will say, the new Dungeons & Dragons 2024 core rulebooks make it easier than ever to do this. It's very, very powerful, and genuinely backwards compatible and genuinely useful and effective, right? But what was really interesting, so I get into this with the hardcore player, and so and that's the other thing is, so he takes the adventure in a direction I did not expect. Excuse me. And it's exciting, but also, the jib, I've released the rope on the jib and the sail swings around. And I'm a skilled dungeon master, and I know to duck, right? That jib is swinging around, and I got to put my head to the deck, or it's going to get, I'm just going to get knocked into the water, and my body will float away, right? And I think that's why people are able to sell all these pre-gen adventures. You couldn't sell me a pre-gen adventure if you tried, right? Like, I buy pre-gen adventures, every single one that Dungeons & Dragons creates. I don't buy anything that anybody else creates, right? And the reason why I buy the D&D ones is those are crystals of history. Like, they're really powerful historical elements, right? I'm not buying them to run them as adventures, right? But I think what's interesting is when you have these other dungeon masters, the jib swings around and it clocks a ton of them. They don't even know how to process it. They are really upset and startled, right? And I think it's just really fascinating that, for some people, the jib swinging around is really important and special and unique. But for others, it's terrifying. It is genuinely terrifying because the boom hits them, right? Whereas for me, I duck, the sail swings around, and now the boat is going in a different direction, and I'm super excited about that. But let's not pretend it's not dangerous. It is dangerous. It is extremely hard to dungeon master. So one, I didn't do that great a job at recapping. All I did was just tell you how excited that the Drogar campaign is making me about physical table Dungeons & Dragons with everything I like, with the rule set that I like, with the at the Lego miniatures I like, and it's awesome, and I love it, and I'm blessed to even share it with you. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.